The Logitech MX Master 3 is a really interesting mouse, both in terms of design and functionality. And today, we're going to be getting into both. Hey, what's good? Prashil here with my review of the Logitech MX Master 3. And to start us off, I want to talk about the ergonomics and the design of the mouse itself. So let's get into it. I personally think it's a pretty cool looking mouse, especially in this mid-gray color. And there honestly isn't much you can do with a mouse without sacrificing ergonomics. So I think that the balance between the aesthetics and its functionality is great. The button placement feels very natural, and with regular usage, it actually becomes a muscle memory thing. The mouse itself is made out of a high quality plastic, part of which is recycled, with the scroll wheels being metallic and weighing just north of 140 grams. So this mouse is definitely on the heavier side of the market, and honestly, I think this is a good thing because on top of just, well, feeling more premium, it also means you can move this mouse with a sense of purpose. So I had a much lighter wireless mouse previous to this one, and I gotta say, even the slightest nudge would send it flying across the mouse pad into oblivion. So for me personally, I prefer a heavier built mouse. Now when it comes to my actual usage, I found my experience with the Logitech MX Master 3 to be really decent for the most part, with the exception of two issues which I will get into later. But straight out the box, setting it up doesn't take too long, and you can connect it to up to 3 different devices running either Windows or Apple. So props to Logitech on the flexibility. Now, when you do get it set up, I found that the input accuracy of the sensor in this mouse is absolutely superb. It's very accurate. The dark field laser sensor that Logitech developed for their mouse lineup is honestly one of the best. The sensor was very precise and performed extraordinarily well even when gaming. Now the sensor can track on any surface really and has a DPI of 4000, which can be adjusted in the software. I found this to be true as I actually use this mouse on a cutting mat. I've been meaning to get a mouse pad for a while now, but with the MX3's great tracking ability, I never really felt like I needed one. Now speaking of software, I gotta say, the Logi Options Plus app is honestly really great. It is straightforward and intuitive, and that's what I love about it. Because once you set up your mouse, you can find it in the app itself, and you can jump right into customizing the many remappable buttons on the mouse for general use or specific apps, which honestly is an invaluable feature to have. The level of customization for each of the remappable buttons is pretty great as well. I'd recommend you go in and experiment to see what works for you. An example of this was setting the side wheel to zoom in and out on my timeline in Premiere Pro, which saved time as I didn't need to use the plus and minus keys on my keyboard. Now as for comfort, my hand size is slightly above average at about 8 inches, and I'm able to comfortably rest my hand on the Logitech MX Master 3 for long periods of time. And I found the buttons to be more than accessible at all times. Now it is important to note, this may vary for you depending on your hand size. If your hands are too small, you might have trouble with this. So yeah, definitely do your research there. Alright, so the battery life of the MX3 has been pretty phenomenal. I've gone up to about 2.5 weeks on a single charge with about 6 to 7 hours of daily usage. And honestly, the 500 mAh battery in this thing really just kills it. So yeah, the battery life on the MX3 is really great. Alright, so we've talked about the mouse a lot and it's pretty great. But I want to talk about the two issues I've had with my time with this mouse. And the first is that while the Logi Options Plus app is absolutely great, it allows you to map all these different actions to all the buttons on the mouse itself. I found with my usage that from time to time, the mouse actually forgets what functions are mapped to each key and it actually reverts back to the default settings. And this proved to be quite an annoyance every time it happened. Now a prime example of this was when I mapped the side forward and back buttons to volume up and down for general usage on my PC and for Chrome specifically. Now from time to time, it'd forget what function was actually mapped to each button. And so I'd be in Netflix watching a TV show and I would go to put the volume down, but it would revert to the default setting, which is page back and page forward on Chrome. And instead of putting the volume down, it would go back a page. And it was weird and annoying because every time it happened, I'd have to fire up the Logi Options app, go back into it and actually remap the functions to those buttons and then test out whether it actually worked or not. And this always worked for me. Whenever I had this issue, I would just go back into the Logi Options Plus app and it would work for me. but it was annoying every time I had to do it, and I think it's something I should mention. Now, my second issue is something I honestly didn't notice myself, but a friend did when I was working on the go. Now, I was in a study room with a mate, and we were working side by side, and I was going through this document, and I was highlighting segments furiously throughout the document, and my friend turns to me and he goes, "Man, that mouse of yours is actually pretty loud." And I never really thought about this. I then furiously clicked a bunch more times just to annoy my mate, and I realized just how loud this mouse is when you're in a very silent room. Now, I personally didn't actually notice this because I have a mechanical keyboard, and when I'm typing away, that thing is loud. And it honestly drowns out the clicking noise that the mouse actually makes. Now, make no mistake, it definitely is a satisfying click every time, but yeah, the noise is something that may be an issue for you. So it's definitely something to take into consideration. Now, my final verdict on the MX3 is that it is a great mouse. No doubt about that. I mean, the build quality is fantastic, it's comfortable, the functionality is on point, and the software accompanying the entire package just works. But I will say that there is an argument to be made for the MX Master 3S. It has doubled the DPI at 8,000, and there's a 90% decrease in button noise. So this must be better, right? Well, see, the thing is, for me, 8,000 DPI is a bit overkill, and I don't really care about the button noise that much. In fact, I had the choice of the two, and I still picked the MX Master 3. Now, to be completely honest, I mostly made that choice because I wanted that mid-grade color that just looks so good, as shallow as that sounds. And yeah, I'll admit it, I just thought it would look better with my setup. And the only colors available for the 3S were black and white, and I don't know, I guess I just found myself in that gray area. Pun intended. So this has been it for my review of the Logitech MX Master 3, and it is honestly a great mouse that I could recommend. I personally am very happy with my purchase. So yeah, looks like we're out of time. I guess I'll see you next time.